Welcome back to this already the final segment of The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Love to talk to my good friend, Julie Cripe. She is with Omni Bank, a great financial institution here in the great city of Houston. But not just Houston, you're around the state. And what's cool is you've got a pretty big footprint, but you're still, no matter what you would be described, you're a community bank, and it's seen in all of your values and the way you conduct your business. Tell us a little bit about the footprint of Omni Bank, and as always, Julie, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Our footprint is very much in the small business arena and the consumers right around our branches. So we have for, 59 years now been a community bank right outside of the downtown Houston area, and we started expanding in the late 80s, yes, when everyone else was unexpanding, if you will. We had some opportunities, and we moved into the north part of Houston, and we have over the years also gone into Lockhart, Texas, a small town outside of Austin, in Austin and San Antonio, and we find that there is a need for what we do, and that is serve the entrepreneur, be they a contractor for homes or a developer, a small developer for some lots, to build homes for everyone, the manufacturer of springs that are used in your pens or used in the trucks that go over to Afghanistan. It's that wide range of types of businesses that we have financed. Some of our customers have been with us for, well, they're children now, for that whole 59 years, and many of them I've personally banked for 30, 35 years. So it's an interesting mix, but it's really what keeps the economic engine of the country going.
Yeah, and you've brought some of those cool guests on our program, some really fascinating ones, in fact, and it's great to hear that story. So back in the 1980s, when most banks were heading for the hills, you were heading for the hill country, expanding.
Yes, that's exactly right. I'll have to use that in my next ad.
That's right. That's exactly right. And continue to expand and grow in spite of the government's best efforts that seems to devastate banking in general and community banking in particular.
Yes, as you know, I was in Washington a couple weeks ago, and it does seem like the Congress is shifting a little bit and trying to figure out a way to help community banks, but as with anything, they may come up with something that sounds good in theory and will actually have unintended consequences, as most of what they do, just like with the too big to fail legislation they're working on now. Every time they do something for the big banks, when they think they're ratcheting them down, it ends up affecting community banks, and a 15% capital level is pretty much unheard of in this day and age. And doesn't really meet with private companies' needs. And so it's an interesting dynamic right now in Washington. So
you feel like you're getting the ear of members. Is that on both sides of the aisle?
Yes, I do believe we're getting it because, let's face it, with, 8,000 community banks in this country, they all have banking constituents, and they are hearing it.
Yeah, I bet they are. When you go up there, and you spend a lot of time up there, have you bought a place in Washington, D.C. yet?
No, I have not.
I thought by now you'd at least got an efficiency. But no. When you go up there, are there a lot of, usually, or do you go as a group with a lot of other community bankers? How does that operate?
Yes, generally we go with other bankers, and sometimes it's a very small group of 4 or 5 if there's a particular issue at hand. When it's Dodd-Frank or something very large, we will bring in 1,000 bankers from around the country to go blanket the Hill, and that's typical of just about any industry in this country, including the National Association of Small Business Owners and just about any kind of group you can think of. So,
yeah, and I'm assuming that's pretty effective. I'm assuming you get some kind of response from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. What we read in the press is not always completely accurate, as we all know. And
shocking,
they will
isn't
say
it?
that these lobbyists or those lobbyists, and I really believe that Congress, in their heart of heart, listens less to the associations and the paid lobbyists than they do to their real constituents. It's just that most of us have day jobs and can't be running up there except for maybe twice, 3 times a year. And so it's important, and I will say this to every small business or any business person listening, to meet with your congressman or woman in your own city when they're back. They're back on almost every Friday and Monday. They're in the city they represent or the community they represent, and if you really have a problem with what's going on, you need to talk to them. Yeah,
no question about it. They are your congressmen. That's just the reality. And unfortunately, we act like we're victims of them. But the reality is their whole fortunes are dependent on our reaction to them and holding them accountable.
I think what's interesting is most people don't realize that for every one letter or phone call they get or personal visit, they assume that there are 2,999 people that feel the same way and didn't call.
Yeah.
So you really can have a big effect. If you have an issue, you don't have to be ugly. You don't have to assume they don't agree with you. But it's your duty as a citizen to tell them how you feel.
Yeah, and in fact, the less ugly you are, the more effective you're going to be, in my opinion. If you give the impression that you've never voted for the guy or girl and you'll never vote for this person, why bother? You're not going to influence them very much. The fact that you can approach them with an open mind, but you're really unhappy about this particular thing without letting them know, where you have voted in the past, that's the kind of thing that I think resonates with these guys. I worked in constituent relations for a U.S. senator, and that was my experience. We were always interested in what everyone had to say, but there were some letters where we knew we never had their vote, so it really didn't make a whole lot of difference if that alone mattered. But those that seem reasonable, those who seem generally open, but were really unhappy about a particular thing, those really did get our attention.
Yes, and I think that's really where we have to do a better job of building those relationships with our members of Congress, because if we don't, it's just going to they can't possibly understand, just like no matter how smart any of us are, reading every issue and knowing 100% of what that issue is. But you can, because you're living it. Either you're a banking expert, or you're a manufacturing expert, or you're a retail expert, or you're a radio show host expert. Any of those things, you can bring color to them, and they constantly say, give us examples, give us real-life examples of how this bill has affected you, and that's the key.
Yeah, and it makes an incredible difference. Great guest. Always love having you on the program, and always enjoy what you share. Julie Cripe, she's president of Omni Bank, omnibank.com to get more information on it. She is a champion, and this sounds kind of crazy, but you're a champion for people's right to bank, which is one of the building blocks of a free economy and a growing economy. And the things the government have been doing undermines that freedom of banking in so many ways. It left unchecked, it has the potential of throwing people out of being able to bank because of the way they're setting up the laws. And you're a champion to keep banking alive and well, which is really the backbone of our economy. Thanks so much for being with us, Julie.
Thank you, Kevin.
Keep up the great work.
Thanks.
All right, Julie Cripe.
See you later.
You too. All right, Julie Cripe. She's with Omni Bank, OMNIBANK, omnibank.com. A great friend of this radio program. I love getting her on. Love to get her updates about what she's doing to help the economy. If you're looking for a great relationship when it comes to your banking, I can personally and highly recommend Julie Cripe. Make sure you contact them over there at Omni Bank. You can get their information, find out which branch is near you at omnibank.com. All right, wrapping up today's show, do want to encourage you to keep on listening to this great station throughout the day, and make sure you check me out online over there at priceofbusiness.com and our sister news website, usdailyreview.com. While there, like them both on Facebook, follow them on Twitter. Have a great day.